Welcome to Myopia Movies. This week we're talking about one of the greatest films that I've seen 6,000 times. It's Empire Strikes Back, or for those of you who are in the know, Star Wars Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back. We talk a lot about it in various versions, and we ramble and ramble and ramble and ramble. God, though, I will say, this is a hell of a movie. I'm sure you've seen it, and if you have not seen it, just watch it. It's on Disney+. We get into a little bit. I wish you could see the original version, but this version is delightful. They're all delightful. And frankly, it's a blast. Enjoy it. It's wonderful. I hope you enjoy our cold month movies. This definitely starts as one of film's coldest movies. But going forward, we have some other great selections, and we are doing a little bit of a growth drive. So please share this and tell other people about this. We want our numbers to grow, and we want you to be a part of it. So we appreciate all you do to keep us relevant, and keep us on the charts, and share us. Thanks, everyone. Welcome to Myopia Movies. This week, as part of our cold movie month, we go to the island, the planet of Hoth, as we talk about The Empire Strikes Back, the first movie that I know of that was directed by my professor back at UCLA. Because I'm sorry, Professor, I'm going through a divorce. Can you direct my movie for me? I'm your host, Nick Hoffman, Riffer on Cineprov, and on panel we've got
also Riffer on Cineprov, Norternet.
Kieko, and I'm nobody.
No, you're not. You're a very important person.
That's really mean to say to yourself.
I'm Atlanta author Matthew W. Quinn. I like to think I'm a very important person.
He's the one who doesn't exist.
Lauren Cannell, just happy to be here. I am. Got to start my Yoda. Uh-oh, it's Yoda. Happy to be here. I am.
I am none.
So I assume this is everyone's first time seeing this movie.
Oh, for sure.
Isn't this like a rite of passage for most people?
Yeah. So when you were a kid, first question, all of you, any of you, what was the first, what you would call, classic movie trilogy you watched?
Back to the Future.
Your Back to the Future. Back to the Future. Okay.
Yeah, Indiana Jones.
And? I'm not sure?
I wasn't really into the trilogy.
Air Bud.
Because,
It's more my style. Oh, yeah.
I will say, so mine's, I would say awkwardly funny, but mine, like Matt, was Indiana Jones, and I love those movies. I think we built the Columbia Movie Company out of them. I love them. I have them on VHS over here.
1, 2, 3, 4.
But I will say, number 4, Faye. Well, I will punch you. I also have the Star Wars trilogy from them. But I found out later, my mom was the one who liked Indiana Jones more. And so she shared that with me the same way we all share movies we love with our kids. But it was
more than Star Wars? You're saying she likes Indiana Jones more than Star Wars?
Oh, yeah. That's why she shared it with me first.
Gotcha.
I found out later it was because she thought my dad looked like Han Solo. And Indiana Jones in particular. And she even got him the hat. And I was like, awesome. This is not going to scare me later on.
You're like,
oh, my. But I will say,
my brother looks like Han Solo.
While she pulls it out.
Yes.
Because I do now.
I'll do what it's like.
We'll talk about this for 6 years, of course, because this movie's so.
Was that a Han Solo thing or was it a Harrison Ford thing? Because that's
a Harrison Ford thing specifically, but it's the rugged Indiana Jones version, as opposed to here the scruffy 70s version. Which I know this movie came out in the 80s, but in like 1977 when the first one came out, he's got the big 70s like I'm kind of also Paul McCartney hair going, but in Indiana Jones it's the 40s kind of tighter hair, which my dad has always had. So there you go.
So Nick, I have to ask.
Please.
I was so excited for this movie.
Why's that?
And I have to ask you, because we've done this for years at this point.
Of course.
You were always so against doing Star Wars movies.
Okay.
So what happened? I gotta know what made you choose this? Because I was really psyched that you were finally
I too am
agreeable to do a Star Wars movie, because you used to be pretty adamant to not do it. So
because we have people in our group, especially early on, that were all they would do is fawn about good movies. So I wanted it to at least be a movie we could talk about, and say flawed movies, I thought,
would be better than good movies. And I think this movie is probably okay. And
So a flawed good movie.
It's pretty perfect.
well, and that's what I was going to say. Like, I go back and forth because I watch these movies a bunch of which one's my favorite, either the first one or the second one. And I don't hate the third one, just which one's the best, the first one or the second one, Star Wars or Empire.
Well, time out. For those, I think there's a generational gap. Not generational gap, but like
No, generation.
the trilogy gap. When you say the first one, second one, third one,
So
you talk about 4, 5, 6.
I'm talking about its whole.
That OG.
Literally the first one. And by the way, I was talking to my wife about this last night when we were watching it. I have, we can all talk about the version we watched, but I imagine all of us watched the Disney Plus or the version that would be on Disney Plus if we had Disney Plus, right?
Yeah. Well, Matt made a comment before we were watching. He said he actually wanted to know which version to watch. What's the difference?
So in 1980, when this came out, there was no CGI, so it's all practical effects.
Like puppets?
What?
Like puppets?
Yeah, everything. There's there's nothing. And so, like, when you see the AT-ATs walking, or at the time they just called them walkers, which just nerd note, it didn't get their name until there was a toy. They didn't call them AT-ATs until there was a toy. So that's why they just, in the movie, they called them walkers.
Mm-hmm.
But those are stop motion animation. So you see them step, it's very jerky, but they're robots. So who gives a shit? It makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in 1990, for us, 1997, 6, 7, and 8, they remade them using special effects because 1999 was going to be the prequel, the first prequel. And so in theaters, they re-released them in theater.
I saw them because I think I remember Empire having a lot of new stuff, but they had more Tatooine creatures in the first one. And there's a whole new ending for Return of the Jedi where you see like them tearing down statues of Palpatine all across the Empire and stuff.
Yeah.
No, well, and I will just add to it. Then there was another round of special effects added because in 2010, right before they were about to sell it back to Disney or around there, he re-rendered all of it for 3D. And the first one he did was The Phantom Menace. And they re-released it, rendered in 3D, and it was all brand new, and they added more shit, and the movie bombed when they put it back in theater. So they didn't release the rest. However, they did remaster all of them a second time. And so when you watch the Disney Plus version, there has been at least 2 or 3 revisions of every scene. Now, of the 3 of them, Empire is the least one that has been the least modified. And that's because at the time he was going through a horrific divorce. So George Lucas had the least to do with it. Yeah. He was barely even on set. The first one apparently ruined his marriage.
Well, let's talk about that. So this
about the divorce?
Well, no, like,
Well, how did the movie ruin his?
Well, no. So the first one.
I want to hear North's thought though. What were you?
well, no, but like, no, let's just continue in that. No, because what's the gap between this movie and the first movie?
3 years.
Oh, really?
Not in terms of plot, but in terms of time it came to
Like
release.
when they
The first one came out in 77. This one came out in 80.
I don't know. Mark Hamill in the first one looks significantly a lot younger than the Mark Hamill in the second one.
So originally he was not supposed to be hit by the wasp. And so they came up with an excuse. That's why when you
was attacked. That's why he's attacked.
And that's why when you first see him, he looks like he's wearing like old school like play makeup, like because they put as much flattening like concealer on him as possible, and then he has to get mauled to explain the car accident.
He has like facial scars
Yeah.
afterwards. Bad.
Well, that's why it was a whole thing. That's why they made it an attack. Mark Hamill, he was terrified that he was terrified that he was going to be recast. Like he was terrified he's going to be fired. Like they had to push back filming for him to recover a bit. Like it was a whole thing.
Terrible thinking, like,
Yeah.
'cause I thought it was like, I don't know.
And by the by,
He just got
that's
older.
why at the end of this, Han Solo is frozen in carbonite because they weren't sure Harrison Ford would come back for a third one because the Indiana Jones movies were so big.
Yeah.
I know historically Harrison Ford just didn't like Star Wars.
No, Harrison Ford is a curmudgeon.
What's that mean?
He's just an old asshole.
That's correct.
And so he was just like, I don't even want to come back for another one. And then, of course, this is the biggest movie on the planet. Even they got Alec Guinness to come back, someone who notoriously hated being in the first one.
Well, I love the whole story. Do you know this, Nora? That Harrison Ford was a construction guy.
Yeah, he was
on the set.
So okay.
He was a carpenter. He wasn't even supposed to be an actor. He would just have him read with the actors. They happened to grab him, and they loved the chemistry between them so much. They're like, hey. But yeah, he didn't want to do it at first. He was like, George, buddy, I'm working on the set here. What do you need?
Yeah. So
And
George Lucas's first movie is a movie called American Graffiti, which is amazing. It's a classic Cars. It's your classic last day of high school. We're all hanging out in town kind of a movie. And Harrison Ford was the carpenter. And they're like, we just need you on set for one scene because we need someone to read this line. And I'm George Lucas. I'm not going to pay anyone in the equity union. And he did it. And then everyone loved the scene because he's Harrison Ford. He has this like magnetism. It's a one thing. I mean, you and I do cineprom.
Yes.
So much the problem with these bad movies is that the person walks on screen and he's supposed to be the strong-jawed hero, and he has no charisma. And then you'll have someone who is nobody. Like we did Pitch Black a few months ago, and Pitch Black, the second Vin Diesel shows up, he doesn't have to say a damn thing. You're like, you just. And that's what Harrison Ford. Clearly, he shows up on American Graffiti. He has one line. Everyone's like, "Can we give him another line?" He's fucking hot.
But anything he's in is that way. He has it's the George Clooney. Who else has this?
Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt, I would say.
Are we saying he has Riz?
Do they have Riz?
His grandma. No, I mean, but you're right. It's Riz. It's literally
George Clooney just got that
It factor that you can't really explain, but I love that just based on chemistry, they were like, okay, you are Heim.
Well, there's apparently a lot of chemistry going on here. Apparently, on the set of Empire, who was banging Carrie Fisher, even though he was twice her age and married.
Yep.
Oh no,
dude. Can you be? By the way, well, okay. If you've seen it now, Hope by the end of it, Luke's like, oh boy, I'm gonna get an award, and he's straightening his tie in the background. You just hear.
I knew so.
Someone must be moving furniture. Oh no.
RMPK Fisher, his mother,
The late great.
What was her mother's name? Carrie Fisher's mother?
Debbie Reynolds.
Debbie Reynolds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wait, is Carrie Fisher related to
Burt Reynolds?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Anyway, hey, I had to ask. Listen, those wonderful Halloween Town movies in Disney that we grew up watching, and well, at least
I love Halloween Town.
But she said so the actress oh my god, what's her name? Daisy Ridley from the newer trilogies from Force Awakens.
Y'all need to stop being assholes to her online. I'm sorry. The first two movies are great, and the third one is not her fault.
No, they're just overcorrected.
I liked them.
Yeah.
I liked all of them.
But
it's okay to be wrong sometimes.
I like the first two. I just didn't like Rise of Skywalker.
That's what I said.
Oh, okay.
We have so much in common.
So the advice that Carrie Washington Fisher, two different people that Carrie Fisher said to Daisy Ridley was just like, don't bang everyone on set.
Good advice, Mom.
Yeah,
good advice.
That was like one advice that she said to her. I don't know if that was true or not, but I can imagine during that first one, because wasn't it the first one like a student cowboy western film? It wasn't supposed to be as drummed out as what it should be.
I don't know. I would like to explore that some more, because I feel like the fact that this movie got made and got popular is just crazy to me. Like the time that it came out, the graphics, like my father-in-law loves Star Wars, and he talks about this movie being like, when it came out in the theater, being groundbreaking and like mind-blowing. Like he said he would go to the movies and watch this movie again and again, pay to go to the theater and experience these movies in the theater again and again and again, because they were just so unique. And he's also a fan of sci-fi, and like I feel like in the 70s and 80s there was a lot of literature. Like there were like my stepdad and everything, like they like books.
It was a space opera, as people describe it.
Yeah.
Star Trek, things like that. Yeah.
I feel like that was like the first big budget, famous, popular.
I think also sci-fi movies at the time were like like Soylent Green or Silent Running, more thoughtful, kind of dour, and Star Wars is like, let's go back to the 40s and the serials.
Well, and to Kiko's point, this was, I mean, the first blockbuster ever is Jaws, but Star Wars beat it.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Right,
and it's
so-
because of what Matt was saying. Like, a lot of the sci-fi at the time was effectively Twilight Zone episodes that became full length, and previous episode Soylent Green is very low budget. Like, there's no effects, there's no special. Like, they're using stadiums that existed. Like, I think at one point they're filming it like Madison Square Gardens or something. They're just putting like practically decals outside. Star Wars is a masterpiece of everything. Like, you use like Ray Harryhausen's stop motion animation. You're making incredible sets. They create a company which becomes ILM just to deal with all of this stuff. And it's a mixture of incredible costuming and a real star in Alec Guinness and a bunch of young people who just want to do blow and hang out.
And I arguably say one of the best movie plot twists to date.
Which one? This one?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we're like, stay tuned, stay there.
They didn't know how big it would be either. I mean, Carrie Fisher talked about that all the time. They didn't know that it was going to be what it was going to be.
And apparently
Anyone knew it was going to be.
Well, and apparently they filmed 3 versions of it, and until she saw it, they didn't know. Because even, what's his name? James Earl Jones recorded 3 things. Luke, I am your father. He doesn't say Luke, I am your father. He says, I am your father. One was, I killed your father. And one was, I think, Chewbacca's your father.
Said that Obi-Wan killed your father.
That's right.
He seems like he could get down.
I mean, first of all, Chewie can definitely get
down.
because Han is kind of jealous of Lando, but Chewie is like, fuck you, mine.
Well, let's through the tradition. We need to go through the plot synopsis in a sense, and I have a version, if you don't mind.
I would love it because I think everyone on the planet has seen this movie. I would love you to do it.
This is a story of people in space.
The story of a girl. Oh, sorry.
All about how these people were in space on and
I am so afraid of all the Star Wars fans, though. That's another reason. Because of like,
Wait, let me give you my how I view the stars. Listening to this,
Not a single soul.
because guess what? Because I like most people like to watch things in chronological order. So yes, not in progression.
what'd you do for this?
So the train is coming right first. All right, a movie?
No. So like I like to watch things in chronological order, and so I started chronological.
That's the word.
What'd I say?
Chronological.
I said chronological order.
Dude, read your fucking story.
A through Z. Anyways, this is the story.
That's alphabetic order.
I'm going to keep harassing you this whole time.
Oh my god.
A through Z is alphabetic.
It means the same thing, doesn't it?
Did you know that Star Wars had a black person?
That's my point. This is the story. This is the story because I started this from Solo. This is the story of how Lando Calrissian got the Millennium Falcon back. And that's it. And that's how I saw the story. Right? And that's the only positive thing. That's the only positive thing of it. This is the story of how he got his shit back from a gambling game.
Dude, I tell you what, though, that whole sequence is awesome. And Leia just being like, oh, fuck you, and just throwing and having Chewie just toss him aside when they go save Han. There's elves. Dude, by the by, too, those capes and Lando Calrissian, that dude is, he fucking slays.
I understand too. I understand why you're obsessed with him.
And Han Solo looks at him and he goes, my old man. And he goes, Leia. And then he kisses her hand.
He kissed my hand.
And Han Solo's like, oh shit, I have made... This is the biggest mistake. Yeah. It's not that he's going to be frozen in carbonite, it's that he introduced Leia to Lando. And dude, there was not a panty dry in the house.
I am convinced in Rise of Skywalker that he is still hitting on Leia. So said Leia, my love.
You're not wrong.
No, she's been a widow a year. Have you no class?
Mel, a year is a time to mourn. She's not even wearing black anymore. She's fine to go. She's good to go.
Someone needs to do the plot synopsis, right? You can't get based off what. Would you like to do the plot synopsis? No, Matt.
Well, you were not.
Maybe you eat the plot synopsis.
I'll do it.
Right. I'll do that. So
sorry, Maddie, you do.
And rollers. The prologue with
Don't you know anymore now?
and a scroll. Yeah, they blew up the Death.
H is for Hoth.
They blew up the Death Star, and the Empire came back and kicked them off their planets. They've regrouped on another ice world called Hoth, and meanwhile, Darth Vader, for reasons as yet to be revealed, has become obsessed with finding Luke Skywalker. So he's sending all these probe droids from his. This is where I think we first see the Executor, the Super Star Destroyer.
That's right.
With the super. Oh, that's a thing with
Great
the
bigger one. The one where we see
with the blue neons on the side.
Yeah, and we see the regular Star Destroyer. They on the shoes. Yeah.
Okay.
And then we see Han and Luke doing patrols, and then Luke wants to investigate a meteorite, which is one of the probe droids. Only he gets jacked by a Wampa, kind of like a Yeti-looking thing.
Okay. A lot of my first introduction to Star Wars came from Family Guy when they used to do this spoof. You're about to hit me? No, sir. It's just like the spoofs of that.
He's saying you're right.
Yeah.
That makes
You're saying you're right. What I'm saying for Matt, everyone knows this movie. No, I was going to say everyone knows this movie. So what I think we should do instead is talk about it sequence by sequence, and then we'll cut back to you and you give us the summary, and then we'll go back.
Okay.
Because otherwise, we're just stepping on each other's jokes, and that's going to be a lot. Because this movie is, again, unfortunately, you're right. We got to make sure people don't hate it.
Yeah. If we miss any detail or get anything wrong, Star Wars has more pressure. I love it though.
What do you guys like more, Star Wars or Star Trek?
You can't say that shit here.
Absolutely.
No, the Star Wars episode. Can I ask it on the Star Trek episode?
No, well, we've done a lot of Star Trek.
You definitely more Star Wars. Are you're Star Trek?
Yeah, we all like Star Wars here.
Are you Star? Yeah, it's cool. So you're a Trekkie? Let her answer. Are you a Trekkie? Are you a Trekkie?
I plead the fifth.
So the first then, this to me is fantasy magic nonsense, and I like it. I think there's some really good stuff in here. But as far as movies I rewatch more, I think I rewatch Star Trek more. Like truly.
It's nice knowing you.
No, it's
I prefer Star Trek over.
And also with you.
So why?
Why? I mean, I don't know. I think I'm about to piss off all the Star Wars viewers.
So we're trying to love Star Wars.
As a kid, I found the original trilogy boring. I did like the Ewoks though. But I think I liked the stuff that you weren't really supposed to like anything that was just fluff and comedic relief and whatever. I'm I love that.
Yeah.
But don't like the space fighting, and there's so much of the rockets shooting and
Let
stuff.
me ask you this, because I am a Star Wars fan, save for Quinkling. The other movies, like the Phantom Menace.
Yeah. So as a kid, I watched, with my family, we went and watched the new ones, the prequels, and I liked those. Okay, they were good, but I still didn't like the first ones. And then the new ones, I've loved all of those.
So I will agree with you, and I'll say what it is. I think Star Wars for me. And I don't mean this derogatorily, but it's also more of a kid's movie. All of the Star Wars movies.
Yes.
And so when I was younger, I did like them a lot. And I like the Ewoks, but the thing I think that tips its hand is in Phantom Menace when it's all about the fucking Senate. Because to me, Star Trek is often more about the political intrigue. And I think that's much more interesting as an adult. Yes. Even Wrath of Khan, which is an action movie, they're not fighting like it's magic Star Wars physics.
Yeah.
They're fighting like they're two naval vessels at sea, and then there's political stuff behind it. Now, that being said, I will say this movie and the first movie of Star Wars are film writing 101. They're masterpieces. But I will say, as far as what I rewatch more, I generally will say I'm going to put on a Star Trek movie.
Yeah.
I
I don't find these old ones to be as rewatchable as the new ones. I think they do have that. Even the expanded ones, like the Han Solo and what's the other one that was really good about the plane? Oh yeah, that one.
I had, if you weren't wearing an adorable sweater, I would throw it in your face. Because I do like these movies. You're asking which one I prefer. I prefer Star Trek.
Let me say this. Y'all know who Freddie Prinze Jr. is?
Do I?
Yeah, I think so.
You mean Fred from the Scooby Doo movies?
No, he wasn't 10 Things I Hate About You.
He was in one of those.
One of those areas. He's all that. So he did voice acting because in the animated series he would do so. I forgot which character he would play. So yeah. So and he actually talked about this.
Are you talking about Clone Wars?
I don't know if it was Clone Wars or Rebels, something like
Okay.
that. But,
I believe.
but he
I've heard these shows are great.
No, they're great. No, they really are. Like I love The Mandalorian. I like all these extended because like it's good stories. Honest to God, it's really good stories. But I think
that was boring.
that's just a continuation of fan. That's just a fanboys from people from like the New Hope and the Empire Strikes Back. But he did say this: Star Wars, when it was made at the time, were made for the children. In the 19th.
like fantasy, yeah.
So come Phantom Menace, 2000 was it? It was made for people like me. 99. The Matrix came out. All this kind of because for me it was the boring Senate things, as you mentioned, but more so it was more like the fighting, you know. Whereas just like I think it was, I don't know, when did Dune come out?
The recent one or the old?
No, the older one,
84.
So I guess
In fact, the guy who directed it, Lynch, was supposed to do
Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi. Thank you.
so you can see kind of like this space race of just like film kind of things try to like appease the masses, but like I think what carried Star Wars over was honestly the merchandising, because that's all money.
You brought up a good point that just made me think of it. Like, I do love Mandalorian and all this new stuff, but good God, since Disney bought it, it is the freaking amount of shows that have come out. Like, the joke is like they're gonna make a show about Luke's hand that gets cut off.
Ooh, I'd watch
And
that.
people would
And have the Phones thing from the Adam Stairway. The
like
Zillionish too
it's Luke's hand that gets cut off, you know. Spoiler alert, sorry. And like it's like what else will they possibly do?
In the older expanded universe, I think some of this might have been incorporated into the new canon. There's a whole journey of Luke's hand where it ended up being important for various things. They cloned a clone Luke in the original Thrawn trilogy.
Did you guys watch the animated series that came out?
Which one?
There was droids and Ewoks in the 80s.
It was
special.
a few years ago.
That was a previous episode.
It was a few years ago, and it was like single episode. Like each episode was standalone,
Yes.
and they were done in totally different animation styles. It was Star Wars.
They had like an anime.
Yeah, it was anime. Like some of them were anime, some of them were CGI. But what it was really cool because they were exploring these sort of niche sort of ideas from the Star Wars world, which I really appreciate. So like what you're saying, like all these shows, I think it's cool. And that show was even more so because every single episode was a whole different, like you had to learn, okay, this is their experience, their world, you know, every single time. And that was really cool, exploring Star Wars in that way. And I think, so like, that's what I like about it. Like, I like that intellectual, like the personal experience, like what's your experience here? Like, one of the things from the newer movies that I loved was Broom Boy, you know? Like the mystery of this kid who's just working in a stable at the end.
Well,
and he puts his little hand out and he pulls the broom to him with the Force. And this little nobody kid, and like I just got goosebumps about Star Wars. I just said I don't like Star Wars, but I like that.
Something I promise I would never nerd out after Batman, but like
Do it.
No. George Lucas and even with Disney, I say he's really good at creating world. That's why you started with the fourth
building.
Fourth movie. Didn't make sense. It made you intrigued about what happened the previous ones. You know what I mean? So like the lore, the thing about the broom.
Sure.
There's actually a new series. I think Jude Law
Called Broom.
It's called Broom. Yeah, check it out. It's the Force Broom.
Is it based on Broom Boy?
It has kids.
Classic joke.
It has kids though.
Wait.
And like I don't know if it's about Broom Boy, but like even the lore, even Attack of the Clones was a setup for the Clone War animated series that happened in like mid-2000s. So, and think of all the merchandising and books and stuff. Like,
I mean, you throw that stuff at the wall.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and just say one thing first. We got to focus on this movie because that's what no one's paying us for. But also, the problem I think you're falling into.
Me? All of us.
I think me too.
Capitalism.
No, it's that George Lucas. George Lucas barely put together a premise in the first one, and very famously. And if you haven't watched The New Hope recently, do it with the myopia eyes, just for a minute, because he clearly is not a great director. He's a good idea man, and that's why he's one of my favorite executive producers, because he came out with the Indiana Jones series. He executive produced Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He does a lot of interesting producing. But sometimes in the first movie, Carrie Fisher decides to put on a jaunty English accent. And as a director, you should say, no, Carrie, in the last few scenes, you talk like a person. And now you're trying to sound like you're doing an English accent. But he just wanted to look at all the gleep glops and the robotmen. And so in this one, again, he has nothing to do with this. My joke up front was correct. He asked one of his professors from film school to direct this for him because he was going through a wretched divorce. The same guy who directed Never Say Never Again, previous episode. And so this one feels completely different. The first one is almost like, it's literally the Kurosawa film, The Hidden Fortress. If you haven't seen it, you should. It's a samurai movie, but you mean guys with swords wearing robes breaking into a giant fortress and then destroying it. It's literally the same movie. They just added jokes to it, which, by the way, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, and Mark Hamill improvised. They worked in the script. This movie, they wanted to make a war film, and this is a war film. And there's romance and stuff. And you can tell that he had very little to do with it because it's just a fucking war movie. Like, we have a D-Day scene where everyone's waiting on the beach, and then all of a sudden people show up. Because remember, originally, this is an anti-Vietnam movie, and Americans are
Originally?
in 77. Like, these were the new Hollywood people. America was the evil empire.
All right, time out.
You know?
Give me history. Is this after or before communism? Tell me.
This is after communism.
So this is after the Vietnam War is over.
Okay.
In fact.
The first one, New Hope, came out what year? 77. Okay.
And our
This is 84.
tragic scenes where like the Vietnamese women are handing their babies up to the helicopters because they're afraid the communists are going to kill them is 75.
That's fucked up. Yep.
But regardless, this is like America's the evil empire. Like Lucas is talking about that. Like, and I know these are all Americans who are the heroes, but what we're talking about is weapons of mass destructions being created, things that can destroy an entire planet.
The Death Star.
Bingo. And so the second one is about some of these Cold War battles, because in 1980 is also when the Russians invade Afghanistan. And so we have these people who are scrappy fighting in the middle of deserts and mountains to destroy the rebels that are fighting. And that's literally empire being destroyed.
So that's why this movie is popular. They had the Rocky effect.
People knew what was going on and they sensed it. All of these things, and again, nerds, I know that there's something like 5% of Englishmen designated themselves as Jedi as their religious choice on the last census. I know that, but understand...
Just fucking college courses. What are you talking about? This is a whole lifestyle.
Yes, but I hope that the college courses are about film interpretation, because in real life, these are films that happened 40 fucking years ago.
When did Spaceballs come out?
Spaceballs came after Return of the Jedi, which is a movie that I fall in and out of love of every time I see it.
Out of love?
Because sometimes I'm like, oh, this is stupid. And then sometimes I'm like,
but it's funny.
the desert scene.
By the way, the first mask I bought... the first mask I bought during COVID was Spaceballs the face mask. I had it until someone stole it, which is really funny when you think about someone stealing a used mask, because COVID was a strange time.
So times.
So let's just for a second, let's talk about the Battle of Hoth, and we can get out the door. Okay?
Because it's the Burr month.
Because they've been talking for 43
The
minutes.
Battle of Hoth, also known as Why Armor Needs Infantry Support, because Luke just runs up on the walker, climbs it up, and chucks a bomb in there.
Dude, these scenes are so cool.
Time out. We missed the most dopest thing. So, wait, is this before? No, this is after. The whole Tauntauns scene.
Yeah, okay, so we've been talking for 43 minutes. Tell us about the first scene of the movie, Noah.
First scene in the movie. All right, so For those, okay, so it's a pop culture reference when someone says like, "Are you cold?" and you just move into a tauntaun. So I don't know. I think Luke was doing some surveillance. You never said you never.
I've never said, "Hey, girl, you get into that tauntaun." Yeah, no, I have not. So effectively, what is going on is they're doing surveillance because by the way, you want to talk about a loser? Han Solo right now is nailing Carrie Fisher, just like. And you know what Luke's doing? Hey, look, a cool rock. Meteor crashes. He's there
and taking a cold shower.
Yeah, and Han Solo's like, hey, I'm going to go check on the princess. And he's like, you know what's a cool rock? I'm going to look at this cool meteor. And when he goes to look at the meteor, he gets mugged by a wampum.
And then essentially, I guess people can't find him. Han, being very guilty that he's banging, his crush,
he tries to find like what's going on.
Tries to find him, and I guess in the process, his tauntaun. There's two tauntauns. Which tauntaun did Han open up? Because when he found his own tauntaun, so when he found Luke, he was frozen because he had escaped from the Build-A-Bear beast that he chopped his arm off.
That's right.
He used the Force, and so he escaped into the abyss. And then Han was able to find him, and then Han was pretty cool. Harrison Ford had a lightsaber. He when he found Han, he was frozen. He was like, "Need you warm me up?" And I don't know whose tauntaun that turned into
Tauntaun just died.
His tauntaun died because it froze to death, and it didn't that's how it froze to death.
It froze to death.
Very dramatic.
And literally, the line is a line you should not use on anyone ever.
What?
I thought she smelled bad on the outside.
I'm laughing so much inside right now. Because you just
this hard.
Right? It's like, No. So, no, go ahead. So he Subway sandwiches, and then he builds a fort off of the tauntaun's guts.
He stores Luke to warm him back up because he's dying of, which is a thing. This is literally. Okay.
I thought that's what you were supposed to do.
For those who don't know what a tauntaun looks like, just think of it looks like a kangaroo horse. A kangaroo horse. Oh, wow. That's a great description. Without the pouch, because if he had the pouch, show it that Luke inside.
If Luke woke up in a pouch.
Very nice.
Bitty Joey's.
Now let me ask you this.
Would you curl up in a... Did you know that kangaroos have extremely long nipples? Their nipple is like a foot long.
I've never seen a kangaroo nipple.
Yeah, so they give birth.
How many nipples do they have?
I imagine.
Actually, you know what's funny? I think it might just be one. I don't know. I'm not sure on that. I just know the length. I don't know the number.
Long and blue.
So what happens is the kangaroo gives birth to the baby, and the baby is basically the size. It's fetus sized.
Yeah.
So the baby crawls onto the pouch, your mommy's tummy, and it goes down into the pouch. But it's so small that it can't really reach the nipple. So the nipple is super long. So it's like a hose that can get down to the little baby.
It's a hose?
Yeah.
Wait, how long was the nipple?
It's a kangaroo nipple hose.
How long was the nipple?
I think it's like a foot long.
That sounds like a kangaroo nipple. I mean, this is the concept that people want.
Yeah, I'm not Googling kangaroo nipples. Actually, man, I can't Google kangaroo.
/kangaroo nipple.
So, let me ask you this. Between the two different Disney Plus versions of... was the tauntaun gut splitting scene the same, or was that added? Or
I will just I know I mentioned this earlier, but find the Harmy cut, guys.
Who?
Harmy.
Who's Harmy?
So he's a dude in history.
This is not
But
Harmy.
he took the original. I believe it was a European Laserdisc version, which was the last fully digital version that was not modified by the special editions. And then he took the stuff that was unchanged to 4K and then took out all the changes. So it is a 4K version you can find, but has none of the changes to the actual scene. So, for example, in this scene, as Nora you described, 30 minutes ago, what happened here is Luke gets mugged, right? Han saves him. They go back. And then the Empire shows up, right? After there's a droid that gets exploded. After that, we have an actual incredible battle scene.
Mm.
In this, we have the AT-ATs, the four-legged walker things that look kind of like camels. In the version we all saw in Disney Plus and such, there's also the ATSTs, the two-legged walkers. They're not in the original. That's why they walk differently. That's why they move differently. That's why there's hashing differently. And so,
The one with the chickens?
yes,
Okay.
those are the ones that are removed in this.
Okay.
Because they're not in the original. And so the dude went in.
Wait.
So if you can,
Oh, you're right. There's not. Because there's their whole arcade game where you try to fight them. I remember at Chuck E. Cheese, okay?
it's called Rebel Assault. It's a great game.
You only see the ATSTs in this one a couple of times. If they were
Well, they're not the original.
Star Wars fans back.
And so, by the by, if you look up the Harmony Cup, whoever he is, he's doing God's work. Because I'll tell you what, I have the money. I have the Blade Runner thing where you can get the original, the producer's cut, and the director's cut. I'd buy it. I'd buy the special edition and original edition Blu-ray, and I'd watch the original edition every time. Because why take it away from us?
Yeah,
You two have the Ark of the Covenant.
like I've been like a kind of a hard sell on physical media, but I think you've convinced me for this reason in particular
Yeah,
that they change stuff.
they've changed it all the time.
And I mean, a simple example is Lilo and Stitch,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
like with the dryer.
The dryer, among other things.
Also, 9/11.
Oh yeah, 9/11 stuff. Yeah, because
And if Debbie does Dallas, she barely gets past Dallas. Like, I mean,
didn't even do Dallas.
So,
no, she mostly did like Arlington, and so we're like, just in my mind,
was Debbie dubbed Dallas?
Ordinary sweet summertime.
I didn't know. Was this like, oh,
it's your classic pornography.
It's like
I've seen it. I've not seen it.
Like the first big major popular porn.
Guess we're gonna have to die. Episode. I'm sorry.
Well,
yeah, it's gonna be worse. Debbie does Darth Vader.
You did sit at the bar.
first major popular porn. Can we just like what are the other major popular?
Well, okay, so
Deep
he say in 1974 or 72, a man pretended to be Deep Throat based on a pornographic film. There's also one called Behind the Green Door.
I don't know that one.
That's okay, but it actually did pretty well financially. And please go ahead.
well, I mean, continue. I'd like to transition, but yeah, sure. Let's talk about porn a little bit.
No, we don't have to.
Well, for purposes to transition to Star Wars, and
Maybe we could do like a George Lucas transition, like you know how it does fades.
well, speaking of fade, I will say this.
So brothers and sisters kissing.
Well, that happened too, but
Porn again.
yes,
Yeah, that's my stepsister.
very top. Well, at this point, did they know?
No,
They did not.
No, the Leia says Return of the Jedi. Something like somehow I always knew.
But do you?
And it was her idea to
There's
kiss.
one line here, which is that when Luke flies away after failing to be a Jedi, which, by the way, happens at 45 minutes, which we've been talking for 52, the ghost of Obi-Wan Kenobi is talking to Yoda, and Yoda, and Obi-Wan goes, well, you fucked this one up, and Yoda goes, no, there is another.
There's one more.
And that's supposed to be an illusion. By the way, originally it was supposed to be another person. And George was like, no, man, I've ruined one marriage. I'm done. And so that was the end of the trilogy instead. And
Yoda says that when he does his backpack scene, right?
that's right.
Well, I want to talk about Yoda, but we can't talk about Yoda about the direction.
Would you like me to catch us up?
Just from
Yes, please.
We want to go in ABC order, right? So like from the Tauntauns scene.
Me with
Your watching is for Yoda. So we have another 75 listeners.
The Tauntauns scene.
There's a lot in this movie. There's a lot in this movie.
Luke, when he was about to freeze to death, his mentor Obi-Wan was like, "Go to Yoda."
You gotta go to Dagobah because I'm only gonna stand for 3 minutes in this movie.
Right, and before he passed out, he was like, "Yoda, Dagobah." And then after they flee from the ice planet, Luke goes to Dagobah with R2.
Yeah.
Pretty sure he stole that ship. Well, it was
That was his ship.
Yeah, but like, how many ships you gonna crash? Like,
And then we get our never-ending story scene
Yes.
with R2D2.
We had in the story scene.
where he like
Sinks into
into
the mud.
the.
Okay, so remember that Family Guy scene.
Let me just tell us all out just for a second. The Empire lands. We talked about the AT-ATs. We talked about Luke bringing them down.
Yeah.
They do breach the base anyway.
Yes.
Han has been trying to get away this entire time because he's trying to pretend like he's not in love with Leia. But he gets paid in what looks like gun cases, which is great.
Oh yeah.
And the whole time he's trying to fix the Millennium Falcon, which apparently is busted. But as the stormtroopers break into the base,
Stormtroopers got some like depth. They don't look like stormtroopers.
these are the snow troopers.
So,
And they got a cool costume. They look even more like Klansmen than the last.
oh, that's what they remind me of.
But Leia refuses to leave because she's actually the lady boss here. Like, she's in charge of this whole shit.
Yep.
And no one gives, like, whatever. Han says, like, look, I'm going to get out the Falcon. We'll meet at the rendezvous point. And I also like, my favorite character in this early sequence is the other general. Because, like, Han's like, I got to get out of here. Look, Jabba the Hutt wants me. And it goes, a life debt is not something anyone wants on over their heads. And you're just like, what the fuck did this general do? That he's also afraid of bounty hunters coming to kill him. But regardless, they get out. They have this, like, laser cannon that shoots EMPs. And so, what Nora was saying is true. We end up on Dagobah with Luke because of a hallucination. But everyone else is supposed to go to this rendezvous point because the rebels are desperately trying to escape. Han Solo, Leia, and C-3PO and Chewbacca are going off. And I will bring up my favorite quote here because I'm going to forget otherwise. At one point, they're on one of the talk shows. I believe it was Johnny Carson. And at this point, Luke has already been on, or Mark Hamill has already been on the Muppet Show. He's doing all this stuff. And the Muppet Show at this point is the biggest show on the planet. And there's a question. He's like, so what are you doing? And he goes, so Carrie Fisher and, Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher, Han and Leia are on a romantic adventure. And I'm on more of a learning adventure. And so I'm spending a lot of time with the Muppets. And you're just like, oh, no. The romantic tension between Han Solo and Leia is fucking spicy. Like, it's the hot. No, because, like, at one point, though, like, he's, like, adjusting something, she's adjusting something, and then there's, like, a space turbulence, as you'd expect, and he falls into her, and she's like, you asshole. And she's like, I know. And it's like, dude, a Lifetime movie's unfolding and it's hot as fuck. And so meanwhile, Luke is like, it's great, Muppets. And
Well, let's talk about Muppets.
well, and just for 1 second before we talk about your Muppets, I do like the fact that when they save like Luke, and he's like, "Well, princess, Han's like, well, princess, it's like you don't want me to leave," and she goes up and kisses Mark Hamill, and Mark puts his hands behind his head. Dude, it's the fucking biggest power move of the whole movie. It's phenomenal.
Do you think CP3O
Yeah, sure, whatever that name is.
knew that they were related? Someone had the data and know some genealogy. Because think about it, if we want to be nerded out a little bit,
I would love to nerd you out.
because R2D2 and CP3O were there
I guarantee you, whatever you're speculating, somebody has already speculated it. The answer already exists if you Google it. I promise.
And I will say to all of those people, fuck yourselves. No, because the honest answer is George Lucas and whoever wrote this, and there's several people who wrote this, including a woman who, there's a funny story here, and it's a sad story, but George
funny
Lucas
sad story.
hated the script she wrote, but she had cancer, so rather than telling her he didn't like it, he just waited for her to die and then changed it anyway. But the answer to all of this is George Lucas claimed to have 6 movies planned out, and we've seen them. He didn't have them planned out. So I think the answer is he said a bunch of stuff, and then the gaps were filled in later by other people, because he came up with something too big, just like Scientology, just like a number of other religions. But like that's the way I feel about it, and I have nothing but love for this series. But what you're saying,
Okay.
no, what you said was correct.
Hey,
But then some writer was
Saw
like,
something correct. I'm just happy.
you know, but some writer was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna write a whole novel about that. And then they did, and then George was like, you know what? That's pretty cool. And then it became part of the canon.
But so you hit on something. I've always like
Really? That'd be
pictured Mark Hamill like Luke as like Jesus. Like,
Yeah, I can see it.
I get it. He's blonde.
is he Jesus? Is Mark Hamill Jesus? Is Luke Skywalker Jesus?
Oh, by in the lore.
I will say, George Lucas is a lapsed Catholic, so I believe that stuff is so ingrained in him that I believe it. Yeah.
That's what I always thought.
And Darth Vader being Satan.
Yeah. And like,
No, and I mean, like, what's the first scene we have him as? We have his he has no parents.
He's a shepherd.
Well, he has no parents. He's in the desert. And then what do we have him? He wants something more, and then everyone he knows is gone. And, you know, like, and then there's a mystic who's supposed to train him. That's the John the Baptist type. Like, I get where you're coming from.
Disciples.
And again, I think it's just George Lucas having his old Catholic upbringing.
And then at the end, they're like, this guy. He no.
What if he had a black friend?
No. Yes, but no. I'm talking about like he was the savior.
yeah.
At the end of A New Hope, and then he was the one. Think about it, because the one was still simplified as like Jesus. You think about it, like he was the one.
Thinking about
They thought that his father was gonna be it. I'm picking up what you're putting back.
Okay, or we can all be reading into it. Han was like, hey, I'm having an affair with Leia. I don't want my wife to know, so make sure she kisses Mark, okay? Get some heat off me.
I don't know. Mark is the beard.
He marks the beard, you know? Exactly.
Or it could have been like, you know, Chewie was like the camp, like think about it's Christmas time. Well, it is Gareth.
as we're recording.
As we're recording, it's
Turns out that Luke ends up on a swamp planet outside of, I would guess Orlando, Florida, but it turns out that it's just George Lucas's pool while he was going through a divorce. And then Han Solo and Leia end up like, God. So I've been married for years, but you ever remember when before you're married and you're trying to like get near your person, and then every time something happens, you're like, oh no, I accidentally bumped into you? That's kind of the Han Solo Leia thing where they're like, I'm just fixing the hyperdrive, and oh no, you've bumped into me, and now I have to hold on to you. Is this an asteroid field? And she's like, why are you grabbing me like that? She's like, did you hear that? Oh no.
space is lonely.
Attention, yeah.
It's just you and wontons. Some tauntauns.
When you just made like a Rick and Morty joke, like you're in space, you're just like, thank God for this Chinese takeout place.
Morty, get that monkey, Morty. Get that droid too. He's cock blocking the captain, Morty.
For purposes that we have been talking for an hour, should we just like kind of just like
No, dude, we're pick up. Okay, we're doing it. We're doing it. Slowly, we're sharing. Doesn't sound real. I knew this was gonna be a success. Just
Beschäftigen there's so much to this.
Well, but this is one of those movies that like what Nick always says. This is a movie that everybody has seen, so the conversation doesn't have to be about the movie.
we're doing it right.
yeah, I guess.
No one's gonna listen. We're
I
fine.
mean, what we get credit after what the first 3 minutes, but we
And you get your stipend after we've been talking.
What's important for this movie is they do introduce Yoda. That's huge. Wait, that matters.
Because the plot splits here, why don't we just focus on Luke first, and then we'll do the other people?
Okay, so Luke
So Luke,
and Jim Henson.
yeah, Luke and Frank Oz.
Oh, so not
Frank
Jim
Oz.
Henson.
Jim makes the puppets, but Frank is the voice. That's why it sounds like a mixture of two of Frank's other characters, Miss Piggy and Grover.
He does sound like Miss Piggy.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. And
Oh my god,
I'll tell you what, I can do a Jim Henson impression because I can do the voice, but I cannot do Miss Piggy or Grover. I'm sorry.
Who could do Miss Piggy?
I don't know. I could try.
So I can do all of Yoda. I mean, you're doing the voice thing with your throat, which is the SpongeBob, the Todd Penny logo.
Actually, I'm actually just massaging my shoulder because my neck is like totally tensed up for some reason for 2 days.
Because we're about to talk about the Empire. You know, the thing is, we should. No, I won't.
Well, let's talk about puppets because, like, so
No,
yeah, I mean, sure,
Like,
and you'd be sexy as Yoda, right?
I'm a pro puppet.
but so
Because it's real. Lane is eating a fucking object. And here's the thing: I like Grogu and the Mandalorian, but Yoda as a puppet every day of the week.
I watch it with my kids. And Yoda goes on. They're like, "It's Baby Yoda. It's Baby Yoda." I'm like, "No."
no, young, dude. It's dude. Sorry, Star Wars people. It's dude. I'm just making sure.
What's your name? Mary Poppins?
Dude. So Baby Yoda's real name is dude.
It's Gregor.
Bill.
What the fuck did I say?
You're saying Yondu. I mean, you're getting messed up with Dad.
Guardians of the Galaxy. Yondu's Guardians of the Galaxy. It's Metal Warfare's character.
That's it for me. People cover. Huh?
The female.
Yeah, the female Yoda with a mullet. There's a female. She's in the Jedi Council in episode 1, and one of the new cartoons, Dooku kills her because she catches him with Palpatine.
And
Fuck. Okay. Sorry. Didn't know that. And she like that.
And talk like Yoda, she does not.
Wait. So why does Yoda talk the way he
This
does?
is his thing.
that makes it weirder.
Because he's a philosopher and 800 years old and just cool as shit.
Yeah, I feel like if I like
One of my favorite quotes ever, y'all, that I've used my whole life. I love it. For some reason, I love it. Is do or do not. There is no try.
it's so funny that you mentioned that.
Say that line again, because there's a lot of lines.
Do or do not. There is no try. Excellent quote.
True.
Yeah, you know what's funny about that though is my stepdad tried to use that on me as a teenager as like an inspirational sort of like he was like, you put a piece of paper on the table and he's like, pick up the paper. And I went over and I picked it up. Or I think he held it down, or I don't know. I just remember he was like, no, do or do not. There is no try. And now I know it was just Yoda. Yeah.
And also
Yoda. Yeah.
So watching it this.
Yeah, no, that's when I was watching it. I was like, hey.
Well, I have my college friend group. They are obsessed with Star Wars. So everything that I know from Star Wars, it came from them. First time I watched Empire Strikes Back was on Star Wars Day. When that was the same day that
May the 4th.
May 4th, yeah, and that was the same day like my last roommate for Savannah, she's my fiance. It was my roommate, and so we watched it, and because I wanted to see like which is the Star Wars with Yoda when he showed it to me. So, but one of my friends' uncle was featured on there was an MTV show where they like interviewed people. It was a documentary show that people were. It was like not hoarders.
Know this, I do not.
No,
Finish your thought.
so he was interviewed because he was one of those Star Wars fans that just had the most memorabilia. Spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and would go to these conventions or festivals and like that. So you mentioned your uncle.
You're talking about Fanatic.
Yeah, Fanatic.
That was the name of the show.
Fanatic. That's what it was. That's what he was on
I
Fanatic.
know, that's why.
He said yes. Yeah. Thank you. So
Just
you know,
helping you out.
maybe your uncle was like this massive like Star Wars just obsessive person, like sheets, underwear, lightsabers. No, okay.
No, none of that.
I was trying to. That was advocate.
No.
Yeah.
What a great sidebar. No,
ADHD.
I was just gonna say, like, watching this time, it's amazing how little Yoda uses the reverse speech. Actually, like he does it every third or fourth sentence.
Yeah.
But like now, even in like the shows like Mandalorian and such, it's all the.
It's like everything
time.
we know is
And
that.
you're like, no, like it was very subtle here, right? Because it's supposed to be, I guess, like Confucius, or I mean,
Yeah, it's supposed to be a philosopher.
I want to be really nerdy. It's Old Testament, like our Hebrew scriptures, poetic rhyme, where like they don't really have poetry. So what they do is repeat the same line in reverse afterwards. Like, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He leads me to fields because he leads me.
That's
right.
the
So you start at the beginning and at the end, it's parallelism, and that's what he's doing. Because again, don't forget, Lucas is an old lapsed Catholic, so he heard this stuff over and over again, and so every third line, it's like the beavers and fourth is
Where he was a Methodist.
he's not, because
So when Yoda says, "I could be your backpack while you run,"
and then they do it again backwards, run,
Flip.
you know,
Wait, so in the biblical sense, who do you, in the stories, whether it be from the New or Old Testament, who is Yoda in George Lucas's world?
in the Bible,
yeah, he's a prophet. That's why he fades away. The end of the third episode.
He's a prophet, I would say. Yeah.
I'm telling you, Luke Skywalker is Jesus.
The swamp. It's a classic. Well, it's like a kung fu thing where Yoda pretends not to be Yoda.
Rocky IV.
What?
When does Rocky IV come out?
Ooh.
About 87?
So this came first, and that was the point that I was actually just thinking: is all of these
Montage.
training montage, like the old person, person. What word am I thinking of? The person who's the teacher, who's the expert, the person in a montage. Like, I think this scene might be the one that all of these other ones are made after.
Sure. Yeah. I'm not going to argue with you there. It's like the classic idea of or previous episode Fight Club, I think, where they're like, no, you show up, he's too tall. If he's tall, he's too tall. If he's fat, he's too fat, right? So Luke shows up, and you're like, you're too old, right? Like, you're too blank. He shows up, he pretends to not be Yoda.
I love that, by the way.
And he goes like, oh, Yoda, you're looking for Yoda, but first, some terrible stew. Like, I do love that because, and then all of a sudden Obi-Wan goes up and goes, God, Obi-Wan, he's an asshole. And he goes,
We're wasting time.
yeah, and he goes,
Wasting time here, Will.
he's not just too old. He's fine. Don't worry about it. And then Luke's like, oh shit, did I ruin my entrance interview? And he goes,
Yeah, Yoda's talking about his patience. He says this one, Luke has no patience.
that's not
How old is Yoda? He said he was like
to be 900 something years old.
Wait,
right?
but he's been a Jedi for 800 years. So
And I do like the idea that you deal with people for 800 years and this blonde asshole shows up. You're like, you were the worst person in nearly a millennia.
You're going to save the galaxy?
no, I think I would be super cynical if I was 800 years old, though. I would probably start talking backwards, too, just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
oh, maybe.
Yeah, maybe that's why. You just easily wanted to create his own language, you know?
You know, it's hard sentences, so you know.
It's you struggle with word forming. So the training, which was very disappointing because there's no music montage, as Kieko was pointing out, was very much so reminiscence to, probably what was going on. But, so yeah, Luke's trying to be a Jedi.
Yeah, this is like the hotel scuba diving course. It looks like it takes place over maybe about a month. Yet I'm vaguely ready to fight Vader, and he promptly ditches it.
Well, and by the way, what's interesting here, in my head, he fails.
Right.
Like, so, like, we're millennials mostly, and then you're an asshole.
I'm a millennial.
Sure, why not?
I'm 92.
Fine. We have mostly older millennials than Nor. But like the idea that you fail is such an interesting thing because Luke is like, I've got to go save my friends.
Well, it's important to mention his vision.
Okay,
The
so
cave
do it.
of this, because that's why he fails. Because he goes through the cave. Yeah.
So he took
He, in his vision, like, I think it's called the Cave of Destiny. Am I right?
The cave of the dark side.
There. Thank you.
The plot cave.
Yeah. And so he sees a vision that he has to fight Vader. And there's literally lightsabers, and he cuts Vader's head off. And he sees that it's his head. And so Yoda's talking, you know, so it makes it obviously seem that he sees the bad, that he's scared that he's going to go to the dark side.
And I love everything about this. I love that outside of it is Yoda just with his walking stick kind of grinding in the dirt.
Foreshadow.
I love that. And again, J.K. Rowling is just an awful person, but
Yeah.
I love how this is the sorting hat scene, right? Like, you could be either, and you have chosen to be, well, you right now have chosen to be a villain.
Right.
Because what Yoda says is, you don't need your weapons. And what you wonder then as a person is, what if he didn't have his weapons? Would Darth Vader have shown up if there was no weapons? But the scene is even filmed differently than any other scene. Because as the guy is filming it, his name is Kirshner. As Kirshner films the rest of it, everything is done in regular time. He doesn't undercut or overcut the scene.
Yeah.
There's no fast speed. There's no low speed. Everything is filmed evenly and paced. This is the only time he uses slow motion, and it's dramatic and it's horrible.
Like gut wrenching. Like,
Yeah.
because watching it now, I felt it in my gut. I'm like, oh, Vader.
Because it's jarring. It's even more jarring than the stop motion. And then he's chosen to do it this way, and Luke is like, I mean, he doesn't swear, but his face is literally like, oh, fuck. So, like, because he ruined everything, and now he has to fly away because he realizes he can't complete the training. And the only person left behind is the ghost of Obi-Wan saying, don't worry, there's someone else. We can fix this. So,
So was that your interpretation of when the head cut off, that because like the way I saw it was that when he went into that cave, it was to understand the truth, because at that point, you know, no spoilers, but everyone was alluding to about Luke's father. So I felt like that scene was foreshadow of what was yet to come.
Yeah, I think both. I think it's definitely foreshadowing, and definitely because they're talking about the different sides of the Force and kind of how he has to choose, and I think it's all of that.
And I will not rant against modern movies much because that's not what the point of the podcast is. But I like that it's ambiguous. Like, truly, like, is this supposed to be his betterness? Is this supposed to be who he is? Is it just supposed to be that he could turn evil at any moment? We don't know. And you know what? No one tells us. In a Marvel movie now, they would be like, and here's the explanation.
Yeah.
And Doctor Strange would be
Somebody would wake him up and be like,
Or the cave that, like, is it a cave that figures out your secret? And his was obviously, he didn't know yet, but was about Vader. Is it like,
The cave is apparently a nexus of the dark side.
well,
oh, there you go.
you know what they don't say? I mean, first of all, you're right. And Yoda alludes to it, but no one just out and out says that.
But
Strong in the dark side or something like that.
Well, right. But what does that mean to Luke? What does that mean to us? We're not told. I like that. That is so cool. Because, again, if we're doing the Catholic metaphor, it's Jesus being tempted in the desert. It's the idea that you could see, you're taken to the top at mountaintop, and you could be like, you could be the king of all of these kingdoms. They don't say that. Instead, he strikes himself down. He chooses to be good, but instead of learning how to do that, he instead feels the pain of his friends and tries to decide on save his friends, which is the wrong decision. How interesting is that?
And when I was watching this, I was making notes that they're telling him as he's leaving not to give in to hate, but he's not. But hate isn't the issue here. That Vader is praying him.
well, but
And but then Vader's like, use your anger. Only your hate can destroy me. So they anticipated his pitch.
no, but guys, the whole thing with Jedi is that they're not supposed to have connections, good or bad.
Yep.
They are supposed to be neutral.
And that's why.
And so that's why it was the bad choice, because by choosing his friends, he was choosing that connection to make him be like humanly connected, but that's the vessel in which the dark side comes through. It's always people being hurt in human ways, losing somebody you love.
Well, and here's the thing that I think is the best about it all. We're talking about a person who is now not a Jedi yet. He's on his way. He should be better than us. He's supposed to know how to use magic and the Force and his sword.
Lightsaber.
But, fine. But at the beginning of the previous movie, right, he's looking at all these dead wampas, or he looks at the dead people, the Jawas, excuse me, who sold him R2-D2 and C-3PO. And he's like, but if they kill these guys, they're going to lead them home. And then he runs back to his aunt and uncle, right?
Barbecued.
And they're dead. But that's what's happening here. He's having the vision. He's like, oh God, Han and Leia. And his voice cracks, like he literally breaks. He's upside down. Yoda's on his feet, right? He's bouncing. He's like, Han. Like his voice cracks, and you're just like, he's still a person. The whole thing about the Jedi that we've been told is that they're emotionless. They know right from wrong. And the thing about the Sith is that they embrace their fear and their anger and their fury.
They wallow in it.
And the thing is, Luke is supposed to be our aunt, because Luke is the one who still feels emotion and can't deal with it. And that's the tragedy of him, because he is the most powerful person in the universe. We find out later. But he is so heartbroken by the fact that his friends could be in trouble. And we've all been there. And that's why we're supposed to love him. Because again, if we're supposed to relate with anyone in the original movie, it's Luke. The idea that he looks out, he sees the two suns setting, and he wishes to be anywhere else on the planet. And then he sacrifices all of it because his family dies and he goes out. And now he has friends. For the first time in his life, he has real friends, and now they're in trouble. So do you want to graduate and be the most powerful being in the universe? You want to help your friends. And he chooses his friends. It's supposed to be a human moment. And the problem is, it's not what we're supposed to want. Because remember, at the end of the day, someone can just grab him by the collar and be like, hey, asshole, you didn't graduate from Jedi school. And that's where we are.
Well, he's truly a rebel in a sense, if you think about it. And that poor ass resistance, he was the true nature of it, because like he was not, because like there was the one thing that they said about, and like he's very similar to his, well, I'm alluding to who his father was, but he was a pilot. He, in a sense, he did use a laser. Even like Obi-Wan.
I love how sensitive you're being about this.
To the spoiler of the whole movie, yeah, of course, you know, because like in a sense, like he very 3:30 in the morning, but we'll parallels the whole family in a sense, very parallels their counterparts, whether it be their mother or their father in a sense, but. I could nerd out a bit, but we've been talking about Han's development way too much. I want to talk about Leia and Solo.
I'm going to stop you for a second so we can just finish this storyline, because we should get
yeah. Well, because it's happening simultaneously though.
Well, right, but
yeah.
Well, but I was going to just say we should finish Luke, because at this point Luke decides to leave after Yoda raises the entire X-wing out of the water. And that's when he says, that's why you fail. And then he flies off to save everyone. And so let's talk about now Han and Leia and get there. So Han and Leia win 3PO, which is the greatest sad sack and all that. And one of the greatest cock blocks in the history of film. Because they're fixing things. He goes, guess what I said? Oh, gee. And the whale walks off, and he's like, motherfucker.
Couldn't have saved us 3 minutes later?
Aw. 3 minutes, Space. Time is...
I'm just
circular.
trying to think, like, the amount of, like, awkward tension that those two have. I think
This is the greatest will they won't they in history, right?
Here, Leia, and it's the movie. They're setting this up because she keeps looking at him
Could you imagine a woman looking at a man?
I want to talk about Leia
over and over again.
What's the term where you just look vicariously through when you're looking
Bisexual lighting.
No, it's a term where it's even like when you just tensely just look into the void. What's the term?
Daydreaming?
No, yes, in a sense. There's
Spacing it.
it does not tensely. Now this was like my word of the months ago, and I forgot it. Anyways, Mercilessly, no. Anyways, the whole
I mean, we can make up words that we all
sure. I just want to say at the beginning of the movie when you just look at Leia, she's just always in a state of like tenseness and worrying. She's not saying anything.
I feel like that's like me.
She's in charge. She's in charge. Pressure's on her.
Okay.
Like, she's in charge. She's making the decisions. Right? There's a lot on her shoulders.
Pensive.
Oh, pensive. Like that's the way you're thinking.
Yes, she's always pensive until she's with Han. She ain't pensive with Han.
No, she's out dirty somewhere.
That's what y'all think. She's singing loosey goosey with Han.
From on that pencil, and
I feel like she's trying her best, but I mean, it's hard.
It's space, like I said.
So I mean, they fly off. He takes her in the Falcon because turns out, man, can you imagine? There's no other ships available.
And the Tauntauns caves and they have to go the other way.
Is it a cave?
Leia, it looks like your sleeping unit's messed up. You could stay in mine with me.
I would say, just for a second, that's my favorite line, where I think it's the 3PO lines, where R2-D2 was saying, well, the princess was complaining about how cold it was, so he turned up the heat and everything melted. Anyway, so they get into the Millennium Falcon, which is perpetually broken, which I kind of love, because anyone who's a writer
Throat comes out. It's always broken. Yeah.
just anyone who's a writer out there, just understand, like, there's always going to have to be MacGuffins in a story to make things work. But the idea that it's just a shitbox for the beginning, it works. Because, like, you don't expect anything to work, and whatever it works, it's a miracle. Well, this is a movie where there's magic, so you expect it. So I love the fact that it's just like, so often he pushes a lever.
Yeah.
And nothing happens. And he goes, I was told it was fixed. Like, he's so exasperated. And I love that. I love how it all fits together. I love how Chewie is just dealing with the fact that it's not working and he's fixing it the whole time.
And they're going to drive through all these asteroids.
If you say punch it one more time, I don't know, it's good.
I think one thing that I really liked about these movies, I will say, is that these actors really liked each other. Yeah. And you can tell. Yeah. Like it's
like done cocaine together. Of course you would like them.
I was trying to think of a rhyme about friendship and cocaine, but I couldn't pull it together. But I think that's really neat. Like when you watch their interviews and stuff, how you can tell that they were buddies. Yeah. Like for reals. I think that's cool.
And that's one thing you can't fake.
Yeah.
It's like you can put people together, but that chemistry you can't make it. It's either there or it's not. And I think people can pick up on that authenticity too a lot of times. So
it's genuine. No, I like it. Good chemistry. No, I was gonna make like a weird stoner joke because like it doesn't matter. Okay, so there was a joke where saying like it doesn't matter who you are, what ethnic race or things like that. If you find a stoner, they're like your best friend. It doesn't matter who you are. You can be like opposite sides of the track. If you see a fellow marijuana devil lettuce enthusiast, you instantly become best friends. You don't have to know anyone. You're like, you want some? You're like, yeah, sure. And that's what I imagine, but with cocaine, with the Star Wars cast. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, they all have the same dealer.
Well, and
George Lucas.
Or I guess in this movie, it'd be Spice. Right.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Like Dune.
Dune. Yeah.
Like when I supposed to do this as Spice.
Yeah, that's what Spice we're talking about. Okay.
No.
Oh, slow Spice.
That's so good.
So they try to escape the Empire. They have their Star Destroyers going after them. They end up in a asteroid field, and then in one giant asteroid, they decide to hide, and turns out to be a worm. And just as an aside, this scene, they would fuck it up today for a lot of reasons. They come out of the ship. There's, I think the bat things are called Minox. They're flying around. They're really cool puppets. Again, I assume Jim Henson, because Jim Henson's all over this place. But they step out on the ground, and it's like they're in a bouncy castle. Their like knees are flopping around, like, and then they shoot the ground because they're shooting a Minox, and they miss. And everything shakes, and you're like, oh shit. And by the way, we talked about Star Trek earlier. This to me is the most Star Trek scene, because they're like, oh no! Yeah, and they're flipping around back and forth. But because it's a rom-com scene, and I'm gonna use yours for a second, she flops, and she's like, oh no, I'm in your, like, and he grabs her every single time. And you're just like,
And
is this the Lifetime movie?
and Leia is a lot more chickier in this scene. Like, oh no, is it bad? It's gross. She was commanding armies an hour ago.
Pensively.
She's also kind of into it.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
that
like,
kind
an
of
excuse. Oh, Han, catch me.
yes.
Slurp, yes. Okay, that's why. Yes.
I will confirm this is what girls do around guys they like.
And why not?
Sir, for me,
Yes.
boyo.
Yes.
Watch out, Mickey's gonna fall on you.
Did somebody say boyoing?
No.
No, I said boyo. My here.
Yes.
Oh, they're holding hands.
Oh my.
Wait. So in regards to just like the Family Guy. No,
Luke, my turns out you're a Jedi. Oh no.
So in Family Guy, the worm is actually Meg. I don't know if you watch Family Guy, they always send in the character
I've never heard of it. What?
Meg.
Dude, I'm fucking with you.
I know, like I know it's not The Simpsons as Daniel always alludes to, but this is a little family. But no, I just found that funny. Yeah, I miss Daniel.
It was a shame he died in that fire.
Oh, he's still alive. He just has multiple kids now and stuff. So they fly into. So tell me wait, how much was it? So they fly out because
They fly out through the teeth, which is one of the greatest scenes in history.
just deep in their throat.
Because they have I like the sock puppet who just goes up and tries to grab him at the end. No, it's puppets, man. Light hitting an object. Anyway, and then the Empire's after them, right? I do love the idea. And so in the original movie in Star Wars, Darth Vader chokes that one guy in a meeting, right?
His like what?
And he goes,
This movie, he has a shootout at a dinner table.
he kills so many people in this movie. And again, like the first one, the guy goes, your adherence to that ancient religion is laughable, whatever he says. And in this one, he's just like killing people and promoting. The guy goes,
You're in command now, Admiral Piet.
he kills the guy. Then he just,
How come you can only do evil impressions?
because the one time he did Mickey Mouse, children started crying.
Now, kids, I own you now, little Vader. You're my slave. You call me Watto now, bitch. You're in command now, Admiral Piet.
Worse.
Wow.
That's pretty good.
Great.
Okay.
Oh, and Minnie is like Leia.
I'm not gonna make out with my sister.
So after escaping from the Empire, and what I will say is just in general, an incredible like World War II film scene where he's able to negotiate between all the asteroids that they're going through. but the bigger ships cannot. And so we see this like a range of dudes on the viewfinder, like 3D guy, and they just keep getting killed by the fact that the asteroids are killing them. And they get through the back end. And I will introduce one scene we haven't talked about yet, which is that Darth Vader invites the bounty hunters, which the rest of the Empire is disgusted by, right? We have a few that are just all over the place. We have the old school, like Star Wars, like people in masks, like they're in old Universal horror movies. But we'll introduce two. We have IG-88, who's the robot guy. And then we have the late, great Boba Fett, right?
And I believe if those who watch The Mandalorian, the IGH is voiced by Taika Waititi.
He is. But we also see 3 IG-88s in this movie.
I didn't know that.
Yes. We have IG-88 here. We have IG-88's head in another scene. And then when we get to Cloud City, there's an IG-88's entire body in the like pit after C-3PO gets shot. And according to Star Wars lore, if we ever do Return of the Jedi, we'll talk about it. But in the third movie, in the second Death Star, we see an IG-88, and it's the one who's taken over the entire third Death Star. And that's what leads to the Thrawn trilogy of books. But we actually see its head if you watch the Disney version here. But IG is the assassin droid.
Mm.
So,
Almost there.
almost there. Don't worry, we only have
A 3-hour episode, man.
we're 12 minutes shy of the entire length of the movie. So let's wrap this on. Lando, Millennium Falcon show up at Cloud City, and these two little droid ship things almost shoot out of the sky. But when they get there, Lando, is that a system? No. Lando's a man. And he shows up in a cape, and everyone's like, they just melt. Because I swear to God, that is the sexiest human being who's ever been on TV.
He's very plush hair.
Dude.
We're talking about hair before we all... Yeah, we're talking...
Southern.
Yeah. Ooh. Full. Mustache. Thick. Tall, dark.
I do like facial hair in movies, man.
Yeah,
Because as someone who has facial hair, I like representation. As a tall white male, could you imagine not having representation?
Was it? You're on your own there. So Lando gets introduced, played by Billy D. Williams, and
Great.
I guess it's more of like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah.
You know,
And he goes, how dare you bother to show your face up right here? And they hug each other, which is the way you and I greet each other every single
in a voice. But those who don't know, I guess, I don't know if you're ever going to do Solo or things like that, but how Han Solo got the Millennium Falcon was through a card game.
Yeah. He mentioned
Was
it
it?
here.
He mentioned it, but it could have, I don't know, like one small detail led to a whole movie scene. You know what I mean? It just like went past my head. So that was pretty cool.
Well, and I will say, just as far as writing goes, I like the fact that, I know I said it an hour ago, or however you edit this, but 90 minutes ago, I brought up the fact that they don't explain references. I like that here, because we don't have to see the card game. We just have to understand that they're both scallywags. And that at one point, they played Texas Hold'em like in Casino Royale. And that...
You got a ship.
You know what, Mr. Bond? I don't have anything, so I'm going to give you my ship because I have 3 aces. And turns out Bond had 4 aces. You know what I mean? Like, there's just something about the nonsense in this that is great. And then at the end of the day, he's like, but I thought I trusted you. Asshole, you stole my ship. And I love here, because the worst thing about sci-fi is when they explain things to death. What is Cloud City mine? We don't know.
Sabana gas. Sure.
They say it.
Yeah, they do. The Sabana comes up.
See, Matt's ruining. He got you, man. He's bringing back a Star Wars fan. Where's Sabanas gas?
Yeah,
What are you to do?
I think it's used in blasters. Like the blasters are all plasma bursts rather than lasers.
War profiteering. Does that matter?
Why am I so impressed by that knowledge? That's fake knowledge, but I'm like, wow, that's cool that you know that.
Yeah.
But that's fake.
Tell us.
You did.
You did. No.
Oh.
Juice. I thought you were asking a question.
No. I was just saying that was cool.
When they bring up, who's the Lando system, I think he mentions that the Cloud City is a Tabana mine. And it's my understanding in the lore that Tabana is the gunk that makes up blasters. Because blasters aren't probably lasers, they're plasma gobs.
The more you know.
Cool. Thank you for that clarification.
So,
Got it.
Nice. Sky City.
I'm glad we're keeping the Star Wars fans. With
Planet City?
We got possibly the most awkward brunch that's ever existed.
we would be so honored if you would join us.
Then we got, and you know what? Credit to Han Solo. He shoots Darth Vader in the face and he stops it. But you know what? No question. He's just like, hey, fuck you. Pow. Great shot.
Yeah, I really like it.
In one of the Dark Horse Infinity comics, Han actually straight up kills Vader. He shoots him in the back.
Oh, you read this?
Yeah, it's one where Luke dies and Leia trains on Dagobah, and Vader shows up and cuts Yoda's arm.
Whoa. What is this series?
Star Wars Infinities. Dark Horse had the comics license for a while.
Yeah, bro.
So they played What If games.
That's
Dark Horse is also the name of the bar that I was first thrown out of. Not by design. It was someone I was with.
you're checking about comms or
Yeah, it just brought it back a memory. But that's what's up. No, I'll check that out. I like what if alternative moments and things like
I like
that.
that too.
Oh, you'd like my premium membership you just got. Thank you.
Oh, no, actually, yes, Matt, if you'd like to speak about that, you can talk about
plug
it. Plug it.
Yeah.
Oh, my Substack newsletter, The World According to Quinn, 2 free posts and 1 premium post per month. A lot of it is like backstory and behind the scenes stuff of my existing writing projects.
Yeah.
I'm thinking the December one will be review of War of the Rohirrim, though.
Which is what?
The anime Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings. It's coming out soon.
Which just follows what story?
Helm Hammerhand and this Fortress of Helm's Deep. But got new nerds to offend now.
Oh, yes.
What is this movie rated?
I don't know.
I assume maybe PG-13.
Wondering if it was for kids.
I mean, it's Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings is ultra violent, but had no cursing or sex.
Yeah, there's no blood. It's just like orc blood. It's Jello. Liquefied Jello. It's Sunny D. Yeah. Anyways, Star Wars.
Get to our final thoughts. The fight at the end and the spoiler, because guys, if you haven't watched the movie, stop listening now and then major spoiler. This movie
Tell us your statement. We're gonna set it up.
pause it.
After Cloud City incident happens, they get Han, right? They freeze him in cement.
Oh yeah, you get frozen in carbonite.
It's Vader is testing it out because he wants to capture Luke.
Right. And Leia was like, I love you. And he was like, I know. See how whatever it was to say, Rick, there's logs.
Is so great.
Do you want to hear something really fun?
Apparently, Harrison Ford improvised that, which I love.
Do you know what he told
The script.
Lucas that Lucas couldn't write dialogue for shit.
Because he can't.
So y'all want to hear something really fucked up? It's very similar to this improvised line. So I had a friend of mine who used to date someone who with hearing deaf. And so she had said, I love you. And she didn't have her hearing aids on. And he was caught off guard. He was like, oh shit. So do you know what he said? Instead of I love you, I olive juice. But she read his lips. So she read I love you, but he said olive juice. That's fucked up, right? So that's every time when I watch that scene, he was like, I know. Flashback. It's to my buddy. I won't say his name. But yeah, that's really fucked up, isn't it?
Was it you?
No, it wasn't me. Oh my God. Savannah's not deaf. No. But I've actually been in Leia's shoes. Oh yeah, as a hopeless romantic, I've said I love you to a partner, and they're like,
I know.
like, or word or what, and I was like,
They said word?
I've only thrown out the elbow.
But I love it because it's clear though that he loves her too. I don't know. I love that little dialogue and interaction. Like he's saying, "I know," but it's obviously like,
So this, have y'all,
"I love you too, girl."
who, like, in y'all,
I love you to my husband.
in our respective relationships, who said it first? I said it first in my relationship. This is a surprise.
I probably told you I love you too.
Who said it first?
Yeah.
Love your brother? He did.
Of course.
Oh, I would not.
You wouldn't.
Mm-mm.
I think that's more of like, okay,
I held it. I held on to that.
yeah.
It's like I was going to make him do it. And he did. So I married him.
It was you say too much. You said about cheese one time, and I said, yes, I do love cheese. So we've been there.
Yeah.
You had to get one jump ahead of the cheese line.
See, I think I knew it. I think maybe women are more emotionally intelligent than men. Maybe they know it.
What day you pick? Women know, and we're just waiting for you to say it.
Exactly. Y'all know first, but y'all ain't gonna say it first.
If it said it first, the guy would run away.
Good.
Isn't that the whole plot of Transformers 2?
Actually, word for word, yes. So yes, I love you. You know. Then Luke.
I've told you I love you.
Yeah, I told you I loved you too, buddy. So then Luke meets his father. So I just spoiled it. Did you?
Oops. Tweet.
And that's what my kids say to me when I tell them that I'm their mommy. We're just kidding.
So they fight, and I guess he's playing catch. Vader's playing catch with Luke with swords. You know what I'm saying? And
Like father and
I'm
son.
really pissing off Star Wars people.
Well, bonding.
Really bonding. They're playing with the swords. And like his father, Luke cuts off his hand.
Just like
His dad, right?
You still think they were playing, even though he cut his hand?
I think so. I think it was just like, you're my son, this kind of thing.
That
And then-
vision makes a lot more sense.
Right.
When you see, oh, yeah, you're just like him.
Right. And then he's just like, yo, Luke.
Luke.
I am your father. And I think at that point, Luke realized he made out with his sister. And then he slowly realized, fuck, I can't fuck Leia. So that's why he said no. And also,
no,
his dad's hip.
close to interesting.
No. Also, his dad's, space.
Before, this was an amazing plot twist. And
He's a big deal.
it was a big
It was
deal.
a big deal. It was a really big deal.
And the fact
Fantastic.
it didn't leak, I guess because they didn't know.
Yeah.
Like, because nowadays leaks are such a thing.
Oh, yeah. It would never work now.
Back then, I don't know that there was that, like, kind of leak culture like what we have.
No, it's definitely not.
Because that's not sorry.
Imagine
From the
people
internet.
getting beaten up in line when they're like,
Oh.
I can't believe that Darth Vader, and and then you start punching the guy, right? Like you were in line for the next show.
You're walking.
There was no internet. There was no everything.
It's just social media.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Oh,
Wasn't a thing.
I'm surprised it didn't get spoiled in the lines. Someone fucking spoiled Marley and me.
Wait, what's the spoiler of
They were like, "Oh my god, the dog died." I'm like, I didn't fucking know that. I thought it was
What do you think?
dog died in Air Bud. No, he went to. So Owen Wiley and me, I didn't need fucking different.
You didn't read the butt.
It's like,
First of all, I don't.
I love picturing people in the 70s and the movies lines and people walk. I do love that idea.
Every single animal movie, they all survived except Marley and me. Bambi, but that was a good little act.
Background of Milo and Otis, because that's a very sad situation.
Who? Milo.
Milo and Otis.
No.
What?
Japanese movie where there's like a bunch of Milos and a bunch of Otis.
You don't know this movie?
No. It's a cute movie if you don't know the back.
It's about a cat and a dog and they're best friends. But it's a live action movie. This was filmed like in the 90s. It's a live action movie. A pug and a cat. They're best buds and they go on this adventure and it's a dangerous,
Homeward Bound.
harrowing. No, this is Milo and Otis. Harrowing adventure. And so I tried to rewatch it because I remember I loved it as a kid because there's a video of a cat giving birth and it's an actual legit real video of a cat giving birth. And I was like, cool, I want to see a cat giving birth. But you actually see it. Like you actually see all of it. And I remembered this fondly and I wanted to watch it. So I put it on with my husband and we watched it. And in the first 10 minutes of the movie, they put a cat in a basket and they send the basket down a river, and it's a real river and a real cat and a real basket. And I was like, I can't watch this. That kitten is a danger.
Noah it.
So they
Moses?
Moses.
Apologies. Moses.
I think they would have parted the river and said,
Obviously, because when Moses, he was put in the basket and the basket down there.
yeah,
Right.
same thing. So yeah, they killed a lot of animals for that movie to film that movie.
Oh my god. Okay.
Anyway.
I'll watch Otis.
Do we know how many animals died in The Empire Strikes Back?
No, none.
Okay, great.
Well, there was a couple snakes and lizards in Yoda's. Yeah.
There's a couple.
And there was some sort of sea serpent thing that tried to eat R2-D2.
So no animals died, and Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's daddy.
And he says,
That's what you need to know.
and then Luke,
Chucks himself off a bridge rather
right.
than obey his dad.
Did he know? Did the Force tell him he was going to go into a poop chute? Well, it wasn't a poop chute, but like a funnel.
I think the point was he would rather die than go to the dark side.
He chose the
As wisely.
He
good
used
side.
the Force to make the tunnel, I assume. Right?
Yeah. I mean, at this point,
yeah, he uses the Force and grabs.
he uses the Force a couple of times in this movie, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess,
And he escapes to the bottom because of some weird hatch.
and then Leia uses the Force to find Luke,
Yeah.
in a sense,
Yeah.
because they have the sibling. Because once you figure out siblings, and
I do like Chewbacca just strangling Lando. It's like, and he's like, we could say hot, and so they go away.
Yeah.
And the best part is that Leia's like, fuck you, and just tosses Lando aside, and they solve it without him. Right? Like, because she's the girl boss, and she's doing a great job.
I think at the end, she's flying the Falcon with this like hyper determined look on her face. One of my Twitter comments was, "You better not hit on her right now, Lando. She's in no mood."
something that I didn't notice though, someone did point this out. Lando is wearing Han's clothes.
Yes.
Right.
With the jacket.
Same jacket, same whatever. Maybe trying to hit on Leia. Like, hey, same shit on. But yeah.
It makes you wonder, as I forget who mentioned it earlier, but like the idea that this was his like Millennium Falcon originally.
Yeah.
So maybe this is just the captain's jacket. There was like a coast
Over there.
somewhere, and he was like, "Well, I get my jacket back."
There's 10 of them, you know.
You can mimic his voice so well.
It's really D.
Okay, I thought this movie is a bit long, but it's never boring. It's well done, and definitely should see it.
Here you go.
Yeah, I think the fact that my husband says this is the best Star Wars movie there is, and he is like anxiously waiting for the kids to be the perfect age to show them these movies in the perfect order. I think that says something.
A through Z.
Chronologically,
Yep.
not alphabetically.
Well,
I love this movie. It was a joy to watch it again. I'm enjoying it because
this one I got to watch with my kids, so like I feel like I'm kind of introducing it to the next generation, which is kind of fun. I just think it's really well done. It's a huge part of our culture. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I think you have to acknowledge that at least. It's well worth the watch. Even my husband was so excited and pissed off, and my daughter was being in pain to getting ready tonight. And as I was leaving, he goes, I love Empire Strikes Back. You can take care of Abby, and I will go and talk about this movie because it's one of my favorites of all time. Let's switch. So it's just kind of fun to have that, second generation and leaning in, and it's just kind of an iconic movie. So I love it.
I'll go next. You can finish this.
Well, really? I could do last? Or... Oh.
I like this movie for a million reasons, but there's something so subtle about this that allows us to have human emotions. So much of these movies we do are based on the action. My favorite part of this are the human relations. And the part of this that I think is the best is that there's subtlety here. If you're writing sci-fi or fantasy, don't forget that it's supposed to tell us about human relations. As my former friend, my roommate, Kyle Kaufman used to tell me, good sci-fi is based on the idea that morality exists in a galaxy far, far away. There's supposed to be human morality, because bad sci-fi or, bad anything exists in this world that's like an IKEA scene where you just push it together and fit things with like an Allen wrench. This movie to me feels like everything has an emotional weight. And the fact that they're going to blow up a Death Star or fight a battle doesn't matter. These are humans fighting a human battle. That's why this is a good movie. And if you're writing sci-fi and at the end of the day you can't tell me how characters evolve, it's bullshit. I like that this has a thing. And that's maybe why it's better, because George Lucas didn't direct this. Anyway, what do you got?
Okay. So I honestly think this movie it's a really good movie if you're a Star Wars nerd, and I say that in the most upward respect. If you're a film critic, because it has one of the greatest plot twists or whatever storytelling, whether it be if you're George Lucas and emulating and parallel things to the Bible. But, in a sense, like it's a movie that I've known people to watch over and over again and find little details in it that can connect to TV shows, books, and it's even fucking college courses, because of this movie, and it's so little subtlety. So, I mean, like The Shining and a lot of these movies, I think the original Star Wars trilogy is just movies you should just watch once, because it's meant so much to a lot of people. And like, it's great fucking scores, I know people who get I know people who flock to Star Wars music, and just like the score. And I'm saying, no, I swear to God, I say, and like I was listening to like the you don't believe me? Look that shit up. There's it. But you know what I mean? But like, no. Anyways.
Yeah, get it onto Imperial March.
No, that's what I'm saying. And like,
No, that's just the
no, just think about it. The strikers themed weddings, the deer political
culture.
This is neat.
Just the whole cool.
It's so cool that this science fiction nerd of a George Lucas created this whole fucking empire of these movies, and just to hear the stories about Mark Hamill Clarkson, and then the thing with it's just like it's just neat. I didn't know he was getting divorced during the second one. That's great.
Thousands of years from now, we have ancient American mythology, Luke Skywalker.
Yeah. So I say to say like this is the perfect nerd movie to me because it really is, and I really like it. So and thank you for making me watch it again.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks everyone for listening. We've been talking for 2 hours and 10 minutes about a movie that's 2 hours and 4 minutes long.
People,
Actually, did very little talking.
I hope you Star Wars people listen to the whole thing because they probably would. Yeah. So nitpick this whole fucking episode.
I'm gonna stop this because I have to pee, baby.
You have to edit out the outro.
Thanks for listening. We have so many other episodes. Good night, everyone. Myopia Movies is a podcast production of Dude Letter Podcasting and is produced by Nick Hoffman. It is edited by Nerd Trinette and Daniel Suttis and is hosted by Nick Hoffman, with production assistance by Matthew Quinn, Daniel Suttis, and Nerd Trinette. The theme song is Surf Shimmy by Kevin MacLeod from Incomptech.com. Licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution for License, Creative Commons /licenses by /4.0. Thanks.